Hello. I was asked what was a typical day like for me as an administrator in an early childhood program. And so, something kind of give you a little backstory and everything. I am a very hands on person. So, my typical day might be different than what somebody else's typical day is. Plus, the different programs I worked in as an administrator in different roles, they had different expectations. So, one thing with me, with being very hands on, is I did not sit in my office a lot. I was out in the classrooms. I was out on the playground. I would jump in, and it was almost time for story time. And I was like, "Do you mind if I read?" And I would read a book. I might be sitting next to a child and talking to them about their art activity that they're working on and wanting to know more about what they're doing, trying to expand on their language. I might be laying down on the floor next to somebody else doing a puzzle. So I was always out and about within the different classrooms and the different centers. And it was not necessarily just because, I'm watching the staff or I'm watching the teachers. It was more of so that way I got to know the kids. I got to know the teachers within the programs where I worked. I helped out in the kitchen so I could learn more about our cooks and everything that were there. And my purpose of doing that was because I really wanted it to be a community, that we were doing this together. We had a shared mission, and together we were going to achieve this mission. I also felt that it made it a lot easier if a teacher had a hard time with the student for whatever reason. Maybe, they noticed a change in the student's behavior, or they noticed a change in the parent's behavior, that I had already been in that classroom and kind of had an idea of what was typical. Or the times that I've been there, I saw some typical behavior. So I was able to give them a little bit more feedback. And I felt like my teachers were willing to take that feedback a little bit more because they know that I didn't just go in when they contacted me about a problem or concern, that I was already in that classroom. So I got to know our teachers very well. I got to know many of our parents very well. I'm not always the best with names, and so I would let parents know that, and I would remember their name. Oh, hi Jim, hi Jane. But sometimes it would be like, oh, okay, you're Susie's mom, and you're Jack's dad, or something like that. And so, but I knew that, and so you know. I just was very active in what I was doing. Of course, I had some administrative responsibilities. You gotta love the paperwork, and depending on what programs you're part of, there's even more paperwork. Of course, I had to do the observations of teachers, but and their evaluations and so forth. But sometimes it wasn't so intimidating for them for me to be in that classroom because I've already been there before when it wasn't an observation time or it wasn't time to evaluate. I helped with the evaluations of the children sometimes with getting some of their observations done, getting some of the checklists that we use done to make sure that children were on track with different skills. So a day in the typical, for me, in a typical day, at work as an administrator, I was all over the place. I was on the floor, I was behind a desk, I was answering phone calls. I did not keep still. But that was me, and that's the type of person I was, is that I was very hands-on. In the beginning, it did make some teachers nervous because coming in, I was a little different. My philosophy on things was a little different than other directors and so forth. But after you're in a couple rooms, people talk. And so they're like, oh, yeah, she means no harm. She's just going to be there. You don't need to change what you're doing. Yeah, the kid completely threw out and had a temper tantrum because, it was time to move and they weren't ready to go. But if something like that were to happen, and I saw it happen repeatedly, I could be like, hey, have you ever tried giving a 5-minute warning? And they're like, well, what are you talking about? And so then I could show right then and there. And so then I also kind of mentored. And so again, very hands-on. I didn't always offer suggestions because sometimes from what I could tell, there was nothing that you could do. You're in a classroom with 5 to 25 kids, and that's 5 to 25 different personalities. There's only so much you can do, but when possible, I did try to offer feedback. I did try to help with difficult situations. I was in there patting backs. All the time. And they're changing diapers and they're helping kids who are being potty trained. Sometimes it's just really hard, and you have several kids who've had an accident, and my teachers knew that they could call me and I would be down there. So, like I said, just very hands-on was a typical day for me. But again, that's my philosophy, that you need to be there. You lead by example, not just from a separate office. But again, that's my philosophy. Not everybody's going to be like that. Have a great day.